looking back now, I didn't understand and know the value that I had being that young in sobriety and having somebody with that much time and experience so close and giving me advice and talking to me. And he grabs that broom on Dr. Bob's porch, and he began sweeping it, like, because we take care. Like that's what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. We take care of each other. And I have a picture of him sweeping that porch with that broom, and it's one of the many pictures of him that I have, but one that it's my heart.
Well, hello, friends of Bill W. and other friends. You have landed on Sober Speak. My name is John M. I am an alcoholic, and we are glad you're all here, especially newcomers. Newcomers, that is, both to recovery as a whole and newcomers to this podcast. Sober Speak is a podcast about recovery centered around the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. My job here on Sober Speak is simple. My job is to provide a platform to the amazing stories of recovery all around us. Consider Sober Speak, if you will, your meeting between meetings. Please remember, we do not speak for AA or any 12-step community. We represent only ourselves. We are here to share our experience, strength, and hope with those who wish to come along for the ride. Take what you want and leave the rest at the curb for the trash man to pick up. Greetings from Studio AA, deep in the heart of Texas. That was the voice of Rachel W. that you heard at the beginning of this episode, and you are going to hear so much more from Rachel in just a moment. But first things first, this here episode is brought to you by Teresa. And so you ask yourself, what exactly did Teresa do to deserve such a mention? Well, she went to our humble little website, www.soberspeak.com. She clicked on the little yellow donate tab and she made a contribution. So thank you so much, Teresa, for your generosity. This here episode is coming right out to you. We're going to let all the other folks listen on in, but it's coming out to you. Thank you so much, Teresa. So, for whatever reason, Foghorn Leghorn kind of came to mind as I started to record this episode. I don't know why. And just, what was he say? Now listen here. Now I say, boy, what's the big idea? What's the big idea? And I've always been fascinated by Foghorn Leghorn. First of all, that he is a rooster, and he talks. And I guess second of all, his name, Foghorn Leghorn. If I were his parents and I knew the last name was Leghorn, I probably would have given him, I don't know, Dave or Bob or something as the first name, just to make it not so conspicuous or, stand out so much. But anyway, I'm sorry that was going on in my little pea brain before I started, so you got to hear it. And I also wanted to say this. I was just in a meeting just a little bit ago, and the topic in the meeting was the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous and what it is and how it is a way of life. How it is, people say my tribe. I found my tribe, and for me, that is the case. I found my tribe, and I know everyone's there are people that come to AA, and it's not their cup of tea, and I get that, and God bless them. I mean, however you do you, as my daughter says. However you need to get sober, you need to get sober, or even if you don't want to get sober, whatever you need to do, but I feel very fortunate, feel very blessed, if you would, that I took to AA, and I I feel fortunate that I adopted this as not just about going to meetings, right? It's a way of life. I mean, it truly is. And not everybody is into that. And I get it, but I feel very, very fortunate that I am. There is this old saying, it says, we are each of us angels, or excuse me, we are each of us like angels with one wing. And the only way we can fly is to embrace each other. And that's kind of my relationship with Alcoholics Anonymous. It's been you all, the ones that are listening to this right now. And I know not everybody that listens to this is in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I just want to say that, but even if you're not in AA, just your spirit, the fact that you listen to my silly little podcast means the world to me. And we all cling to each other, and that's the way we're able to fly. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because it came up earlier today in a meeting. Now, we are on to Miss Rachel W. Now, I'm not supposed to have favorites, but Rachel is one of my favorites, without a doubt. You're going to notice when you hear this recording, though, at the last second, the audio is just a little bit off because she had to join from her cell phone because I think the Wi-Fi went down in her house or something like that. And so the audio is a little off, but it's still, hey, it's Rachel W., right? I mean, you can't get bad content from Rachel W., even if the audio is not 100%. But anyway, Rachel is from Georgetown, Indiana. And the name of this episode is We Take Care of Each Other. Hey, that's I didn't even think about that before, but very apropos for the little metaphor, analogy, whatever you want to call it, I was given just a second ago. Rachel has been sober since October of 2013, and in this episode, by the way, if somebody was a good podcaster, they would have had the other episodes in they'd be able to say, oh, she was on episode 196 and then she was episode 248 or whatever the case may be, but I don't have that. But if you go to your podcast player and you look up Rachel, Rachel, it will pull up all the Rachel W's that have been recorded for Sober Speak, and you can go to our website and look it up as well. There's like a search finder bar or something like that on there. Oh, maybe I should send out a little newsletter. Speaking of, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. So I am going to be sending out newsletters on a consistent basis, and we'll have a way for you to sign up for that. A couple of things. You can just write me at John, JOHN, @soberspeak.com. Ask to get on the newsletter if you want to be part of that, or you can just go to our website and sign up there. There should be a little thingy bob to let you sign up. A thingy bob, by the way, is a very technical term. I just came up with it myself, but there should be some little thing that pops up and annoys everybody. It says, do you want to sign up? One of those things there at soberspeak.com. But anyway, back to Rachel. I'm sorry. On this episode, we discuss Rachel's past, which includes living in a trap house, how we, quote, take care of each other, unquote, in Alcoholics Anonymous. Obviously, that's the title of the episode. What it means to be 200% honest, sponsorship. And she kind of talks about how one's colorful past should not hinder one in life. The tragic death of her mother and her relationship with her daughter, and how that has made a dramatic turnaround throughout the years. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you That Rhymes. That's why I got stuck on that. That was the pause. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you. I like that. There's just a good ring to that. But anyway, I present to you Miss Rachel W. Enjoy, Rachel, and we will have plenty of listener feedback at the end of this episode. Enjoy, Rachel. Okay, everybody. So we are back again with the one and only, one of my favorite, if not my favorite guest of all time, Miss Rachel W. Rachel, first things first, why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself, tell people where you live in this great land of ours, and give them your sobriety date, if you would, please.
All right. Thank you so much, John. Yeah, my name is Rachel and I am an alcoholic. I do have a sobriety date. It is 10/10/13. I have a home group. It is the Women's Surrender Group. It meets on Tuesday nights at 6 o'clock in New Albany, Indiana. And I live in Georgetown, Indiana, which is a little ways away from that. And I do have a sponsor who knows she's my sponsor, and I have sponsees that sponsor, and I believe in good sponsorship, and that's my little qualifiers.
That's great. So I know Amy used to be your sponsor. Is that right? But she's not your sponsor anymore. Is that right?
No, we actually started. Yeah, she was my sponsor for 10 years. So I just came up on 12 years back in October. And what happened is we had a bunch of things happen in our life and they were happening kind of separately. But what ended up happening is I got fired, she got fired. And then we decided once I came back to Louisville, because I was living in Indiana. I was living up in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I came back down and moved pretty close to Louisville. Georgetown is like 12 minutes across the Sherman Mitten, which is the bridge that separates Indiana and Kentucky. The Ohio River runs underneath it. And we decided that we would go into business with another one of our really good friends, Michelle. And so when that happened, there was some suggestions that maybe I should get a different sponsor because, talking about the business and things that are going on there, who would I need to know my entire story? And that's kind of how that occurred.
I got it. Yeah, I love Amy. I need to have Amy back on as well. I forgot all about that. So, and speaking of the business, go ahead. I want to talk about your business. You divulge as much as you want. If you want to divulge a little, if you want to divulge a lot, but I think it's very interesting what you're doing. You want to talk about your business and what you do?
Absolutely. So, the three of us separately and sometimes together, we ended up working all at the same place, but we work in the recovery treatment field for substance use disorder. And what we're doing now is we're in like this really rural area that doesn't have like a lot of services. And we provide services to people in that area that kind of really need it. And that's pretty incredible to help change people's lives. And then we also help other people that are in the field if they want to do better in their treatment, like up their game, if they want to have like third party credentialing, like, international standards for recovery. We can help them obtain that. Or if people are an ideas people and they're like, hey, I got an idea, help me do this, we can also do that. So uh, it's been fun.
That's great. What's the name of your company?
So we are where we began, and we are located. The IOP is in this little tiny town. It's called Corden, Indiana. And we have, like we got a website and we thought that that was a great name because it is where we began, right? And so
Uh,
far, like we started in 2022, in 2023 of August, we got our first patient, right? And so here we are in 2025, and we're still going strong. And it's just, John, it's amazing. It's amazing to see, people that wouldn't normally get those kinds of services and to be supported through, whatever this part of their journey looks like. So it's a pretty cool thing.
yeah. So for me, it's very interesting because I know about Amy's story.
Yeah.
And I know about your story because we've caught up several times, and just the fact that and now you're business owners and you're
Mhm.
moving forward and you're strong and you're powerful. I mean, I knew the first time I talked to you, I go, this woman is very, very intelligent. I could just tell. But for you to take that and to be able to parlay that, and I just think it's absolutely fantastic. Talk about that a little bit. I mean, when you kind of sit back and think about where you were and where you are now, what
Yeah.
kind of thoughts come to your mind?
Uh, John, you're probably gonna make me cry again. So like I was I don't know, I lived in a trap house, right? It had plywood windows and sheets for doors. I was drinking and using, and I had had my daughter taken away, by the Child Protective Services, and just hopeless and helpless. I was just writing some gratitude this morning, and I was talking about how it was like the same day over and over and over again. It was as soon as I get up, what am I going to do? Who do I have to like manipulate, or what do I have to do, to get money to get whatever I want next. And it was day after day after day, man. And on a good day, you hit a lick is what we called it. You got, like you hit a lick and you were doing good, right? But it was never enough, man. And so coming from that, like I used to, I slept on, I thought I was doing good. I was sleeping on a recliner and I was paying for that recliner in like heroin, basically. I would give her some and she would let me stay there. And to go from that, just college, I went 11 years, I hadn't been to college. Um, and then I started because I saw people in recovery. And what I saw them doing is they started going back to school, man. And they were the example for me. And this program, it's just like that. We look and we think, I can't do that. I can't do that. And we look at our neighbor and we see them. We look at the girl that's coming into the meetings, and she begins going to school and she begins, getting good grades and just being so excited and being so happy and getting that degree, right? And it was them. Like I saw in them because their story was similar. They were as full of pain, regret, shame, as me. And I watched them go back to school. And after 11 years of not going, I didn't even really drop out. I just stopped going. I didn't know you're supposed to tell them. So they charged me for all of those semesters after I just stopped going, man. I didn't know. Um, but I ended up going back, man. And I got my master's degree. And I always tell people if you keep turning in assignments, they will give you a degree. You just be consistent, just like we do in recovery. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that because the first semester I ever went to college, I took 9 hours and got a 1.67 or something like that, right? It was horrible. And, then when I got sober and went back to school, they put me on the dean's list, like, several times, and the only thing I was doing that was I wasn't some genius or something. Basically, I went to class and I turned in the assignments and made relationships with the professors and all that kind of good stuff. So you're right. You just got to be consistent.
That's it. That's it, man.
So I just got back from a meeting, as you know. And by the way, I want to tell you, thank you for joining because what people don't know is, sometimes we kind of run into these technical glitches, but your power actually went out right before we were supposed to get on here, right?
Oh, yeah. It's funny how things like that happen. Yeah, it went off. So, my time right now, I'm in Eastern Standard Time, is like a little bit after. It's almost 3 o'clock, and at 1 o'clock or at 2 o'clock, we're supposed to be doing this at 2:30. My power goes out, and I go on the app, and I'm like, when is this power supposed to be back on? And it's like 6 o'clock tonight, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm up here like trying to hit hot spots, trying to like log into these things, trying to like connect, like power packs. Just like I just want to make sure because here's the deal, John, right? Like you're probably the same way I am. when we say that we're going to do something and we say we're going to be there, even if something is like in the way of us
Yes.
doing that, we
Yeah.
figure it out. We always figured it out when we were out there. Like when you're going to be consistent and you're going to show up, you figure it out, man. And so here we are, you and me, we're figuring this out. You had the meeting, right? Like before this, and shoot.
Right. Yeah, I had a group conscience meeting, and I had to leave it a little bit early, but and they'll be fine. I don't particularly care for group conscience meetings anyway. So,
Yeah.
so one of the things we talked about during the meeting that I was just in, we spoke about Dr. Bob's house and being up there. Have you ever been to Dr. Bob's house by any chance?
I have. I have been to Dr. Bob's house. Interesting story. Amy, we were just talking about Amy, her dad. We were up there the very first time that I went up there. I was there with Amy and her dad, and I think there was some other sponsees too. And she was still sponsoring me at the time, and we were waiting for it to open. And there's this broom that's out there on this porch, man, and Kenny died with 30 years of sobriety, and that was Amy's dad. And he was like, looking back now, I didn't understand and know the value that I had being that young in sobriety and having somebody with that much time and experience so close and giving me advice and talking to me. And he grabs that broom on Dr. Bob's porch, and he began sweeping it, like because we take care. Like that's what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. We take care of each other. And I have a picture of him sweeping that porch with that broom, and it's one of the many pictures of him that I have, but one that just like it's my heart.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
We take care of each other. I love how you said that.
yeah,
Um, the last episode that we did, I remember we called it what look what God did, right?
yes.
And isn't that, if I remember right, isn't that some sort of saying that you share with your brother? Is that correct?
It is. It is. My brother said that to me, and I'll tell you some things about the significance of my brother Ryan. Um, in my sobriety, in my recovery, and in my early life. My brother, I have two brothers that are younger than me. One's 10 years younger, one's 12 years younger, but the one I'm talking about is 10 years younger. He has a heart of gold, and I was in the women's healing place. That's the homeless shelter, peer recovery model, right? Like, so the women before taught us what to do. Basically, we did, all the jobs there, and that still to this day, I was there the other day. I still go facilitate classes there. I still have sponsees there. It's an amazing place, and I was in there, and I was early on in recovery, and I mean, early on. I hadn't been there very long at all, and somehow, I had called, and wherever I had called, he was there, and I don't remember the exact circumstances, but one thing that he said to me that it changed how I walked through these steps. It really did. And he told me, he said, Rachel, because he had done recovery before. They had been, 15, 14, 16 years old, going to treatment centers, doing all this, trying to, parents trying to get these kids sober and make them act right and stop doing the stuff they're doing. And he said, Rachel, regardless of anything else you do, you have to be 200% honest. And I remember early in recovery, we called it trudging. We would trudge to this church, and that's where we'd have classes. And I remember on that trudge, and by this time I had Amy as my sponsor. I was making a mental list of all the things that I wasn't going to tell her. Um, a- and it's a good thing we do the steps in order. By the time I got to that step, right? By the time I wrote my fourth and I did my fifth, what I found out is that um, I was willing, I was willing to be able to. be 200% honest. And I thought about that. I thought about that when I was my brother's voice just on that phone, that moment, those flashes that we get, right? Like that, those things that we will never forget. You know, that old timer, what he said to us that one time when we looked up and we saw our kid's face. We have these snapshots and we have them, you know, when we were out there and when we were using, and we have them here in recovery. And when he said that, it stayed with me and it still stays with me. I tell people that, you know, 12 years later. Um, he's currently he did attempt to stay sober. He didn't continue to stay sober. I mean, you know, like we can quit a lot. We just can't you know, stay sober sometimes. He's currently in jail right now and you know, I think about that because it was that 200% honest, and it's almost like, you know, were you telling me something that you were having such a hard time doing yourself? Um, but it
Mm,
stuck with me,
mm.
and I was willing, man. I didn't want to tell. I was afraid to be judged, you know, like I was afraid of what that she's going to look at me and think you're no good and you don't deserve to be here and you don't belong, right? I was afraid she was going to say that. I was afraid she was going to look at me different. I didn't want that. And that's why I didn't want to tell her. You know, our fears always boil down to what we think might happen. And that's it. But thank God that he said that to me because God used him in that moment and I was willing. And then he always says, look what God did. Right? And that's the deal. I mean, John, look at it. Just look at it. Look what God did, you know?
I love how you said that our fears always boil down to what we think may happen, right?
Not even what, it's
I
just
agree.
like what we think may happen.
Right.
It's,
What we think may happen, and that just drives us absolutely crazy.
yeah.
Um, I want you to talk about sponsorship a little bit, and when I say sponsorship, kind of your experience with it from being sponsored, and anything you want to say about that, and also any experiences you've had with the people that you sponsor.
Oh, okay. That's wow, what a wide subject, but it's a beautiful thing. Um, my very first introduction to sponsorship was, you know, I got to the healing place because I'm a felon. I'm a felon with a master's degree that owns her own business. So anybody that listens to this and you think you can't do it, I know felons that are nurses, that are therapists, that are business owners, that like you name it, we do it. So don't think that like your past, we like to call it a colorful past, that your colorful past is going to stop you from whatever it is that you're dreaming, because what you're doing is you're putting the all powerful, you're putting that spark of the universe, you're putting that thing that's bigger than us, you're putting it in a box, man, because you don't get to say what will and what won't happen. um but on consequences, right? So I'd gone to jail. Oh my gosh, I was charged with I was selling narcotics so that I could have some narcotics. So I would sell some, I would keep one. You know, two for you, one for me. Two for you, one for me. All right, so that's what I was doing, and I got sent to the women's healing place, and I didn't. Nothing in me would have ever said go to treatment. It was definitely divinely inspired, and I ended up there, and I didn't know that people were lying about getting a sponsor. I had been like so programmed, right? Like being in jail and consistently like having people tell you when to get up, when to eat, when to go back to your cell, what you had to do, you know, like when we did a shakedown, told all your, you know, like you're used to that. It's like a program. It's Groundhog Day. It's Groundhog Day. You do whatever it is. And so to me, the healing place was an extension of that. So whatever they said, man, I was gonna do. I might have been like obstinate in my head or saying like, I don't believe you, that's not real. Because I did that a lot at first. But when they said you had to get a sponsor and they had to sign this paper, I just did it. And so that my first experience wasn't like, I've got to get somebody to take me through these 12 steps right now. Right? That wasn't it. It was, oh, we need somebody to sign this. And it took everything I had in me. Um, and I'd asked like 3 or 4 women before I found Amy. And what happened is Amy came into this meeting. It was happy hour is the name of the meeting. And she came in and, I can't even tell you what she said, but I can tell you what she did. And what she did is that she had a problem and she was bringing it to the group and she needed a solution, right? And she was desperate. She was desperate, and she talked about how grimy she was during that desperation and how she didn't want to go back to that man. And when that happened, I walked over and I asked her to sponsor me, and that was so hard. Like I'd asked these women before that, and they said no, and now I don't. There is Clancy I, right? So Clancy used to always say, he would say, when people would ask him to sponsor them, he would always say, I've got room for one more. Right? And so I started just taking that saying on. I'm like, I've got room for one more. And
Mhm.
that's the deal. And she said yes to me, and that started this adventure. And like I said a minute ago, I didn't want to tell her the things. But the steps are designed in order. They're divinely inspired, and they're divinely, like put together. Um, and so by the time I got to that fifth step and I was sitting with this woman, I was able to do that, man. And for Amy, originally, the first time that she got sober like in the 90s. And in the 90s in this area, what it was a get in the car. So you get in the car, we go to meetings. You get in the car, we go to meetings.
Mhm.
We go to more meetings, right? And so that was kind of what it was, a big fellowship. And that was fellowship sobriety sometimes. If people didn't get in the book, I mean, it was there, but it wasn't something that was, like talked about like we do these days, or at least the people that I'm around talk about it these days, and the deep dive into that stuff in the 12 and 12. Um, and so we got in the car. She would take me here and she would take me there, and we went to, I think the first thing was like an old timers or a long timers meeting or something like that, and it was, like it was fun. Um, and we became really, really close. Like this was a woman that I would trust with anything. And um, when my mom died on November the 29th of 2015, I was working downtown at a little restaurant called the Bristol, and I got a phone call. And on the other end of that phone was my daughter's father. And at this time, I didn't have my daughter Kaylin back. I hadn't, received my child back. I hadn't got my family back like that. And he he told me that they were like on their way back home, and they had to pass by my mom's house. And the closer they got, they saw the smoke billowing in the sky, and they saw a fire, and they pulled off on the side of the road, and my mom's house was like on fire. Uh, and Johnny is my daughter's father's name, and I was like, "You must be wrong, like you must be wrong. That can't be right." And I collapsed to the floor with that phone in my hand, and I was like, "Let me talk to my daughter," because I knew that my daughter was standing there looking at her grandma's house burning, and I didn't know what to do. The first thing, dude, because of this program and because I was willing, right? Like I was willing to give this program a chance, and therefore I was willing to give Amy a chance. I was willing to say, like I built this relationship with her. I told her these things. She didn't turn her back on me when she found out all the nasty, grimy stuff that I'd done and how I'd not been able to be the mom that I wanted to be. She said, "Me too," you know? And the first thing that I thought of was like, I gotta call Amy, and my phone, like, I don't know why, but after that phone call, I couldn't, my phone wouldn't work. And I went in the office of where I was working and I used a corded phone and I called Amy and it wasn't my number, right? She told me later she was in the middle of watching Walking Dead and she normally wouldn't have answered an unknown number like that. But when God comes, man, and God, protects us, that's what happens. It's the magic. Look what God did. Just look what God did. And she answered that phone and I told her, and then the next thing that I had to do is I had to call my sister and I had to tell my sister that, like our mom was dead. And I knew right away what I needed to do after that. And I went down to a little clubhouse down here. It's called the Ice House. And I shared on a burning desire, man, because I didn't know. And my daughter, she finally called me. Her dad finally, like I think he didn't want me to talk to her while I was so emotional. My daughter called me and I leave the meeting. I go in like the lobby area and I pick up the phone and the miracle, like the miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous is I never once was so consumed with self that I didn't think about others. Even during the death of my mom, I thought about my sister, right? And I thought about my daughter. And when she called, the first thing that I said is, baby, are you okay? Like, how are you doing? Instead of the past me that would have been like, look, I poor me, poor me, poor me. Somebody help me. Somebody give me a drink. Somebody give me something. Somebody help me change the way I feel. And I did that often. Um, and my daughter told me on the phone there was two things that were significant. One of the things that she said is that, Mom, I knew you would call Amy. And she knew that I would call Amy, not because I told her I call my sponsor, right? It's because she had been around me enough and she saw what I did. And she said, and I knew you'd go to a meeting. And like, that's the miracle, man. Um, and if it wasn't for that sponsorship, if it wasn't for the willingness to take a chance, just maybe, possibly, might not, but maybe this will work and it might change my life, you know? Um, and that's just the beginning. That's just a piece.
That's beautiful. Do you remember what we called Amy's episode by any chance?
I do not. What was it?
We called it, and this was with her approval. We called it "Prostitutes Don't Get Sober on a Saturday."
They don't. They don't, man. No.
Because she said that during her talk to me when we were interviewing, and so
Yeah.
I said, "Do you mind if I put that as the title?" She was like so for it. She's like, "Yes," and that's really why I like interviewing you, Amy, many other women, because I know that there are women out there that are listening to this
Yeah.
that think to themselves, "I don't have a chance,"
Yeah.
right? I've already screwed up too much, right? And you, Amy, and many other women that I've interviewed, and not just just people in general, but I think that the women that listen to this really can relate, and they can say, "Listen, if they can do it, maybe I can do it." It's just like Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what's the worst that could happen, John? If you give it a shot and you put everything that you have in it, like, how could it get any worse than it is now? Like, that's what I would say. It's like you could go back to whatever it is that you're doing today, if you just try the 12 steps and to the best of your ability. You don't have to do them perfect and nobody does. And if you ask people, especially with the 4th step, they're going to tell you a whole litany of different ways to do it, right? They're going to have worksheets. They're going to
Right.
not. We're going to do what the book says. We're going to read it line for line. They're going to have a whole bunch of stuff, but it doesn't matter. What matters is your intent while you walk through these, and it could change your life. Do you want a life that's changed?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and like they always say, we don't worry, we will refund your misery if you don't want to stay around with us. Nobody's gonna lock you in and make you stay with us. But it's interesting, and I don't think AA is for everybody. I have found some people that get sober in other ways, and God bless them.
Yeah,
I'm glad they can. But just for me, and I can tell for you as
yeah,
well, it hit a note.
yeah.
And this was the way. This was the way out, as the big book was going to be called originally,
Mhm.
for people like me and you. It's not for everybody, but it definitely. But it's been that way for millions
Yeah,
upon millions of people.
yeah.
It is such a cool thing what we have and what we're part of.
It really, really is.
So, so Rachel, when you think about, and by the way, thank you so much for that story with your mom. That's just beautiful. Um, anyway, I appreciate, and that's another reason I like to have you on. You're so vulnerable, and you let people know what's going on in your life. Um, so, talk to me then about when you think about the people that are listening out there, and may be they may be thinking about joining AA. They may be thinking about just getting sober in general. Um, and but they're having a little bit of a hard time, like you did, right? Getting over that hump. To just start out. And when you think about, I don't necessarily, have to give advice, but more like share your experience, strength, and help with getting over that hump, and what the program has meant to you since coming in. Just talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I believe that, like if you can be open-minded, about kind of what people are doing and sharing, and you said it like when you come into Alcoholics Anonymous, whether it's an open discussion meeting or whether it's, like a speaker meeting or any of the 12-step programming or even, smart recovery or Dharma recovery, whatever it is, man, don't look for the differences, kind of look for the similarities and ask yourself, have I felt like that? Is that something that happened to me? And then when you hear the good parts, right? Like when you can relate and it resonates with you, look at the good parts and say, "Is that something that I want?" Um, and just why not? Just why not? I was taught to introduce myself to 3 people. It was women, well, because I'm a woman. If you're a man, introduce yourself to men, right? Um, and come a little early, and when you get done, put up a chair, put away a chair, and what else you can do because it's one of the biggest things for me is the connection. 12-step recovery and Alcoholics Anonymous have given me a connection to others, and it was a connection that I believe that I sought after my whole life before I got here. Um, it's just, one person, one heart connecting. When you look at it, it's so weird when you think about it, John. Some stranger walks into a room filled with a bunch of other strangers. It stands up and tells some horrific stories that they laugh at, maybe a little bit of tears, right? And then tells people how amazing their life is now. And when they get done, strangers come up to this stranger with tears in their eyes, with gratitude and thanks, wanting a number. Can I talk to you later? I mean, if you think about that, it seems normal to us. But really? So it could be a little hard, but what if you just go to, like go to some different meetings and these days things are online. There's speaker tapes. There's things that you're doing right now. Just listening to people and saying, like, is it possible? I mean, maybe not, but possible, like Sheldon says, right? Like possible, maybe not, but maybe. Um, this thing might be able to work for me. Could I have a different life like happened to that person or like happened to this person? What do you got to lose? Just like you said, your misery is refundable. You can always get that back.
Well, Anything else you want to add before we wrap up today? Anything that's on your heart before I read from page 164 of the big book? Anything you want to leave us with?
I did. I did have just one more thing, and it's, when I was in my mind, I could see, my daughter standing with her father, next to his truck and watching my mom's, house when it was on fire. And I want to tell you that little girl, she ended up coming to live with me. And she was she was a little girl from two alcoholic parents, man, and we did a lot of things, and we caused her a lot of pain, and she saw stuff that little girls shouldn't see, right? And she's had a little bit of a tough path herself. She didn't choose to, she didn't do what I did. But she's had, some troubles with mental health and with suicidal ideation. And what I can tell you is that little girl is now 24 years old. And right before I got on this with you, I was on a video call with her, and we were talking to my dad about our great grandparents, man, and we were talking about what they call girl dinner. It's just a bunch of different random yummy things all together. We try to make it look pretty, and it was delicious, man. And I helped her get an Instacart so she could have some girl dinner. And I am her first call, when something goes wrong, and I am her first call when something goes right. And we have been to this tour, we've been to 7 different 21 Pilots concerts together, and 2 of them were in the pit, and in August, we'll be going to London to a festival to watch 21 Pilots together, man. I could not even explain to you, from a little girl that stood outside that house as it burned, and that little girl that opened a door to find me dead, how much different not only my life is because she's in it, but how much different her life is because I'm in it. And I think that's important for your listeners to know that there is always hope. Help is on the way. Hold on, it's coming. Just give it a shot, man.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I always like catching up with you. It's been too long. You're the best, Rachel. I know that there are there are tons of what they call circuit speakers out there,
Yeah.
right? And I'm always thinking that's part of why I started this podcast, because there's people like you that aren't out on the circuit but should be. I don't know exactly how all those choices get made, but I knew that there were people like you that their stories don't get shared worldwide, and I wanted to give people a platform for that. And I'm tickled pink that we were able to spend some time together today. I'm going to read from page 164 of the big book to wrap us up. It says, abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us, like me and Rachel W., as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. God bless you. God bless your daughter. Please give her my best when you talk about her, and when y'all are talking about your girl dinner tonight. Say, hey, I was talking about you today.
I will.
But thank you so much for joining, Rachel. I appreciate it. So awesome, and always good to hear from Rachel. Thank you, Rachel, for spending time with me one more time. And if anybody wants to write me, you want to get in touch with Rachel or any of our other guests, or you just want to send me a note, I'm at John, John at soberspeak.com. If you want to join our super secret Facebook group, go to the Facebook application, look up, now what is this thing called? Sober Speak Secret Group. Ask for admission into the group and we will get you on in. It's a very low bar. Okay, so we're not going to like quiz you like on your mental health state or anything like that. Can you imagine if people came into AA? We had like a, like when you go to an emergency room or whatever, they have they do the, I think, what do they call that? Triage when you first come in, where they gonna get all your vitals and all that stuff to figure out where you are and how bad you are. We should have one of those, like an assessment coming into AA. It's like, oh man, you are really not doing well. Go sitting back over there with someone's little triage. But anyway, all right. On to listener feedback. Christine writes in, and Christine says, "Hi, John M. I feel like I know you already." Well, thank you, Christine. My sobriety date is August 4th of 2010, and I live in Cornelius, North Carolina, right outside Charlotte. Okay, so this is like a movie from a long time ago. Did anybody ever watch Planet of the Apes? From, I don't know, I think it's the original one. I don't know when it was from, but there was one of the apes was named Cornelius. And when they used to talk to Cornelius, they would call him, they say, Cornelius. But anyway, she says, I live in Cornelius, North Carolina, right outside of Charlotte. She says, all of your speakers resonate with me. I find similarities and nuggets in them all. Please continue to do what you do. You are appreciated. Your sister in sobriety. Well, sister, from you, sister, or no, from me, brother, to you, sister. Thanks, Christine K. I appreciate you writing in, and tell all the folks in Cornelius that I said hello. Thank you. Jamie writes in, and Jamie says, "Hey, John, thank you for accepting my request to the super secret Facebook group." Are you kidding me, Jamie? The pleasure is all ours. And Jamie says, I live in Haleyville, Alabama, by the grace of God, of my experience and the program of AA. I haven't had a drink since July 26, 2015. I found SoberSpeak through a podcast app on my iPhone, and I believe that the first speaker I heard was Earl H., who coincidentally was the first AA speaker I ever heard. Well, that's a good one to hear on the first time. The second day I was in treatment, they played one of his tapes during a session, and a few years later, I had the opportunity to meet him in Mississippi, Mississippi. And he says, I also really enjoyed hearing Mark H. He's talking about Mark Houston the other day. I am in a Steel on Steel group, and to my knowledge, he is the one that created Steel on Steel. You know, I've heard of that group, and I think you are correct, but I'm not completely sure. But nonetheless, Jamie says, keep up the amazing work, my friend, and thank you deeply for the service you provide. And if you're ever in North Alabama, sweet home Alabama, let me know, and we can catch a meeting together, Jamie. Well, Mr. Jamie, if I'm ever coming up North Alabama, I'll contact you. I'll put it out on the airwaves, and I would love to meet all the folks in North Alabama. Okay, so here's the deal. I struggle with the name. It's AALO, like Alcoholics Anonymous. LO, like anyway, Aloe, could be Aloe. And I asked Aloe about his name when he wrote in earlier, and Aloe says, "Hi, John. I meant to respond to you earlier, LOL. The name, because I asked him if it was, I thought maybe he was from the islands, the Hawaiian Islands. And he said, no, the name is from Bangladesh, a tiny country near India. Yeah, I've heard of it. Bangladesh. Wasn't Bangladesh, was it in like a a Beatles song. Was that where I heard that? I've heard it in a song or something. Anyway, he says, I was born and raised in the prairie provinces of Canada. I am now living in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Thank you very much for your amazing work. I recently went back to your beginning episodes in 2018, and I'm listening from the start. I think I'm on episode 40 or 50 now. Wow. Such incredible stories of hope. Your interview style, John, demonstrates a quote open mind, and it's really inspirational. I listen to your podcast every day on my way to work. It has been a priceless gift to help my head get on straight as I start my day. In gratitude, Alo. But anyway, thank you so much, Alo. Gosh, what a cool note that you wrote there. And wow. And you've got about 400 or more episodes available to you after you get through those first 40 or 50. And we're going to keep them coming just for folks like you, Mr. Alo. So thank you so much for writing in. And okay, so here's what's going on in my head right now. I'm looking at Bangladesh and I'm singing the Marrakesh Express song in my head, and I'm trying to place exactly where there's a song about Bangladesh, and I could be wrong. Now I know there's something called the Bangles, which is a singing group, which I think had something to do with Prince, but it has absolutely nothing to do with Bangladesh. And so sorry, Mr. Alo. All right. That right there is another episode of, what is this? What am I recording here? Oh, this is called Sober Speak. We take this, ladies and gentlemen, 1 week at a time. And I hope to be back next week. One never knows. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. And may God bless you and keep you until then. Love you guys. Thanks for listening. Adios.